Good morning, it's Saturday the 1st of June and plan today is to sort out the shed and get the melons in. Both sheds are an absolute mess. I can't even get through the door, and the stuff that I need to get to sort the melons out is buried somewhere within there, so I need to have a good tidy out to start with. I'll just show you what sort of a mess I'm dealing with. And there you go, that's my access to the shed, and as you can see there is stuff just thrown everywhere, and the other shed's exactly the same, and somewhere underneath that lot are 4 tomato halos. So I need to get everything out of here, get all the nets put in the other shed, get that tidied out as well, and then they give me space to work. This is what I've managed to take out. Got 2 bags of rubbish, another pile over here. That's the stuff off the floor, but as you can see now, actually get inside the shed, get to the workbench. I found all sorts of family sieve that I've not seen for months, some pots, the super soil that Nick sent me, and a bag of 6x concentrated farmyard manure. So that's not too bad, and there's no sign of any rats or anything in here, which is what I was a little bit worried about. So I'm just going to take all the rubbish, well not rubbish, I'm just going to take all the useful stuff up to the second plot, give that a tidy. And I also found my tomato halos, and looks like I got 5 and not 4, so that's the result as well. I've managed to clean out both sheds, and I've made a start on sorting out the polytunnel. I've taken everything off the last bit of fold away staging, so I'm going to fold that down shortly after I've taken all the shallots out and dried them off. Most of them have got scapes on now, so I don't think I'm going to get much more from them. And I've also put the first 2 cucumbers in, and I'll show you the structure that I've built for them. And then once that's done, I'll see if I can get the melons in and talk you through how I'm going to be growing them this year. And that's the shallot harvest. They're not enormous, but I think you might be able to make some reasonable pickled onions out of them. And let's get this stage sorted out. Only 2 screws holds it all together. And then simply folds down like that, and that completely opens up the entire length of the bed. As you can see with the soaker hose on this side, it sort of snakes its way around the bed so it gets reasonably close to each plant, but at the moment I've just got this in one straight line. And when I put that in, it was a complete nightmare because I had to try and make sure I didn't damage any of the plants as I went round them. So this time I'm going to do it before I've got the majority of the plants in. So I'll just take a few minutes to do that, and then we'll have a look what it looks like when we're finished. Also, this is a trellis that I've built for the cucumbers. I'm only going to grow 2 this year. So all it is some plastic meshing that was on the pot when I got here. That seems to be 3/4 inch or 19mm square. Just put a couple of steel brackets and bent them to suit along the top, and the bottom just rests in the ground. And then I've got the 2 cucumbers that should hopefully train up and along it. So I'll just get the tomato halos and the pots ready, and then we'll get them all in. That's the approximate spacings I'm going for. I'm just going to get some steel pegs to hold the soaker hose down in position, but that should cover the entire bed. I think there's one area where there might be a slight split in the pipe, but I've got a connector that I can put in there, so I'll just cut it off if it is and reattach it. It just means it'll be an inch or two shorter, but that gives you good coverage all the way up to the top of the bed. I could put them a little bit closer together and possibly get a couple of tomatoes in, but I've got plenty of tomatoes on this side. Probably got too many actually, but you can never have too many, can you really? Right, so I'll just get the ground prepared for them, and cut a piece of cardboard to cut across the top so that I don't end up getting dirt in the bottom of the halos like I did on the last ones. I've got a great tip from Annie at My Rusty Garden to put one inside the other when you fill them up, but then I'll use a piece of cardboard for the final one. I shouldn't get any mess in it. Got the first halo in position. I've put one inside the other, as I mentioned, to prevent dirt from getting inside, and I've connected the length of paracord from the top rail straight down into the hole, and I'm going to plant the melon in and sit it on top of the paracord, so when it grows I can use it to wrap the melon round. It should grow up nice and straight, and there'll be plenty of room for them in there. I'll just do the first one, and then I'll do the rest off camera. I've also got some fish blood and bone I'm going to put in the hole, just work it into the soil, and I'm going to be using my homemade compost to fill the rest of the planting hole. And I'll give them a good watering in, and then for the rest of the time they'll either be watered through the halo or direct from the soaker hose. So I'll just set up the tripod and you can watch me as I do it. Oh, here we go. Good fish and bone. Drop a generous amount in the hole, just work it in. That's a cord in place. That's the melon that I'm going to be using. I'm just going to snip that off. I've had a little cane holding it in place. So I'll just fill the hole up with my homemade compost and then drop it in. Right, so that's filled up to the top of the halo. Just make a small indent. Drop it in. And hopefully that should be fine in there. So the reason that I've done it this way is last year I got a really good germination on my other cantaloupe, melons and honeydew, and they both germinated really well, and I planted them in the ground and they were getting to a pretty good height. Some of them had reached the top of the greenhouse, and then all of a sudden the stems just started to rot off at the joint where they met the soil. I think it's probably because the soil was constantly damp and it just let some rot in or some disease and it just killed them off. So hopefully this way the interface between the stem and the soil will remain dry, and then it'll be watered from the outside, which will encourage the roots to go down and look for the moisture and hopefully give me a stronger and better plant. So I'm just going to give it its one and only water from the top, and then that should be good for the rest of the season. Hopefully I should get some nice melons. I went with 2 melons in the end. There's honeydew there, and that's actually a cantaloupe. I didn't realise it was, but when I pulled the label it was. And I've put 3 more tomatoes in there. These are ones that are self-seeded. I've got a feeling they're probably money maker, but I'm not 100% sure. And then I've put a watermelon in here in the bottomless pot, and I'm just going to spread that up the centre of the bed, and hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 watermelons off there. So we're just down to one table left. So I'm going to go through now and have a little bit of a weed and take off some of the side shoots on the tomatoes in the polytunnel and the greenhouse. Greenhouse is really filling up now, so like I say, I need to take some of these side shoots off and start tying the tomatoes into the canes. Peppers are doing really, really well now. And we have, I can pick it up, our first loofah. So Martin Luther King, he's been productive, but I've spotted a few ants, so I'm hoping they're not transporting aphids up the stem. So I'm going to get rid of those in a second as well. Yeah, so the last job before I go home is fill up all the water containers. Make sure everything's watered thoroughly. Take all the side shoots off, and then it's time to go home for tea. Good morning, it's Sunday the 2nd of June, and it is a glorious morning outside today. It's around about 16 degrees, clear blue skies, and the sun's out. So first thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to water the squashes. We haven't had any rain for a couple of days, and I just want to keep on top of them. I've lost one of the cucumbers. I don't know what's gone wrong with that, it just completely withered away and died. So I'm down the plant already, but I've got some yellow crookneck squash, which should be ready to go out next week hopefully. So I'm just going to transplant them today. I might give the compost a turn, and I'm going to do the weeding in the brassica cage. So that's the plans for today, just nice and steady. I've given all the pumpkins and squashes a good drink. So now I'm going to start and tackle the brassica cage. This is the worst area. So I'm going to use the fork and dig out as much as the mare's tail and couch grass and bindweed as I can. And the rest of the bed isn't terrible. So I'm just going to go over it with a hoe. Wherever there's any mare's tail though, I'm going to dig down a little bit and see if I can get rid of it. Got to keep on top of it, otherwise it'll take over. So just go round, take any yangwin leaves off the brassicas or anything that looks like they've been attacked, and then give it all a good hoe. I'm not going to film it, nobody wants to watch me hoeing. Right, so let's get going. There we go, it didn't take long, 15-20 minutes. Just hoed everything off, and the whatever's left I'm just going to leave on the top of the soil. With it being so warm today, it'll soon dry out and die, and then the nutrients will go back into the soil. So that's that section done, and then the small section here, all looking lovely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop to the allotment shop and buy myself a bag of compost to mix with my homemade compost, and then I'm going to pot up some more of the squashes. So I'll just head off there now, and I shall be back shortly. So I filmed the last section on time lapse because it's pretty busy around the plot, but everyone seems to have gone home for their lunch now. So I've potted up the Peter Pan and crookneck squashes, and I'm going to move the sweet corn into some larger pots. I don't really get on very well with these root trainers, they don't seem to work for me. Rather soaking wet, but bone dry. And these are a variety called Swift. Right, so that's the first one done. And then what I'm using is a combination of some clover, if you can see that properly, clover compost. I'm mixing it 50-50 with my homemade compost. My homemade compost is a little bit lumpy and claggy, so I'm hoping that the clover will even it out a little bit. Next up, I'm going to see if I can sort these leeks out. Looking a bit pale. It should be a bit bigger than this by now, so hopefully I'll get them separated. Put into these small pots. Take a chunk at a time. But then to speed this operation up a little bit, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate them first of all, snip off the excess roots and just drop them in the water. And I can get rid of all the bits I don't want. And just pop them up. You can see there's a hell of a lot of roots. Just going to make it. That's the rest of the squash. So we've got Charman, which is one of the sort of large Halloween type pumpkins. 3 Peter Pan, 3 crookneck squash, and 2 climbing French beans. And there's the leeks and the sweet corn. I've just moved them around to this side of the greenhouse. So they've just been transplanted. I don't think they want to be sat in the blazing sun. So I've given them all good water. And hopefully they should be settled in. Come back down again tonight around about 7:30, 8 o'clock. Just to water everything over again. Make sure the polytunnel's all okay. So that's it for this week's vlog. Hope you all enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks very much for watching and goodbye.